Hey everyone, welcome to Gen X Merch the Spot. Thank you for hanging out with me on my semi-weekly live stream with my good friend Brian from over at the Front Porch Conservative. I'm gonna start calling this the Wednesday newsroom because we do a whole lot more than just cover movies and stuff like that. We're also covering hard news. As Elon Musk says, we are the media now, so we've got to start acting like it.
Yep.
So tonight we've got a scattershot of news, both true crime and hard political news to discuss with you, and we'll get started. But first, I want to pass it over to my wonderfully handsome co-host in the fedora. Brian, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, thank you, Miss Tracy. You can find me on Rumble and on YouTube at The Front Porch Conservative. You can also find me on Twitter at 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗁𝐶1. I usually do live streams about 3 or 4 days a week and one on the weekends. So glad to have you guys here with us. We did a wonderful interview last night with documentarian and photographer 𝗟𝗏𝗏. And I've got, actually, if I'll just go ahead and plug this right now since I'm on the subject. We're having a guest next Tuesday night. Nina Infinity is stopping by the Electronic Front Porch for a conversation.
Awesome.
So I reached out to her and she said, yeah, I'd love to come on. And I said, okay, what day works for you? She's like, yeah, just remind me about a day before and we'll do it. I was like, okay, sounds good to me. So 6 o'clock next Tuesday night, the goddess of geekdom, the Persian princess herself, Nina Infinity, host of Good News, among other things she does, will be on the channel. We're just going to shoot the breeze about geek stuff and her background and all kinds of cool things. So yes, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Rumble, follow me on Twitter.
Perfect. That's awesome. All right, let's get started. First, we're going to cover something that I found very, very interesting. Today, we had the Bucks County Election Commission meeting. And there was what I like to call the Republican Bulldog of Pennsylvania, and that was Scott Presler. And he dressed them down so badly that the commissioner that ran her mouth saying she was going to do whatever the hell she wanted to, in so many words, got Twitter-pated and had to call a 5-minute recess after he finished speaking. So let's do it, shall we?
Oh, absolutely. I've been watching that clip all day long, and I tell you what, it is glorious. Absolutely glorious.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, hang here.
If you recognize the tune to that, we can be really good friends. There's our boy. There's our boy.
There's our boy. Now let me know, everyone, if you can hear it. Please in the chat. Let's do this. Whoop.
He's got style. I give him that.
News a lot this year. Earlier, we flipped Bucks County from blue to red, and for the first time in modern history, there are more registered Republicans than Democrats here in this county.
Can everyone hear?
Robert says the audio is good.
Okay, good.
Number 2, voters were disenfranchised in this county. And in fact, I want to thank Chairman Michael Whatley of the RNC and co-chair Laura Trump for suing to make sure that we had 3 additional days of early in-person voting, because voters waiting in line to do in-person, on-demand, mail-in voting were told that they couldn't vote until 5 o'clock, that the line was cut off. So thank you to the Republican Party for suing Bucks County and fighting for election integrity. And now, here before us, it's on the world stage that we have a commissioner, quote by Dianne Marsiglia, "Precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country. People violate laws any time they want, And if I, meaning Diane Marsiglia, violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it. Well, Commissioner, the court already ruled that undated and misdated mail-in ballots could not be counted. You knew that going into the meeting. And I want to congratulate the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This speech I'm doing right now is going to be seen by millions across the country, the Commonwealth, and the world. And I have a message.
Tracy, hold up right there for a
Congratulations to
second.
President-elect Donald J. Trump, the 45th and
I want to talk about that for a
Yes.
second. Would you minimize that
Yes.
down for just 1 second? Because I want to comment on this.
Yeah.
That to me, excuse me, I'm still getting over. That comment right there, this speech that I'm giving, this 3-minute speech, you didn't let's mention the amount of time, but he said this speech is going to be seen by millions and millions of people in the Commonwealth, across the country, and around the world. To
Yes.
me, this is one of the fascinating developments of the 2024 election, is that if all things being equal, yeah, would because of sunshine laws, would the Bucks County Commission be required to televise this meeting? Yeah, they'd be required to do it. Would it have the same reach as we now have because of Elon Musk owning Twitter and Rumble and other social media platforms that are allowing the Scott Presslers and the various other folks out there to be able to make their reach seen? No, it wouldn't. And this is, they say that sunlight is the best disinfectant. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And more, this sort of thing, what Scott Presler in a 3-minute speech got up and did today, you're going to see this more and more as grassroots activists take to meetings, take to county commission meetings, take to all kinds of things, and they will let their voice be heard, and it will be amplified because of what's going on in the revolution in social media today.
Oh my God, yes. It's well, they all call Trump the father of fake news, but particularly the cackling hens on The View, saying that Trump invented fake news. Trump invented fake news. No, he didn't. He brought fake news into the sunlight. It was always there. And now we just see it. And this blatant voter fraud. I don't care if it was 1 ballot or 1,000 ballots. Those ballots had already been ruled by the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania that they could not be counted, and they were doing it anyway. That is just spitting in the face of the American electorate.
Yeah. Now wait a second. Adam, the crazy Canadian, says that I need some Jewish penicillin. What is that? Like 𝗵𝗂𝗍 or something? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. Unless you mean prayer.
Okay. Oy vey for that.
And and Duke, I have some news on Laken Riley. We're going to get to that. Just hold these questions, and we'll come back to it.
Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to stop. Yeah, because there's more of that clip that makes you want to jump for joy.
Yeah, we're going to finish that clip, and then we're going to talk about what happened immediately after it.
Yep.
President of the United States of America. Congratulations to Senator-elect Dave McCormick, and we are not going to allow Democrats to steal this seat from us. Furthermore, congratulations, because we defeated Matt Cartwright, giving President Trump an additional seat in Congress. Congratulations to Congressman-elect Rob Bresnahan. Congratulations to Congressman-elect Ryan McKenzie, defeating Democrat Susan Wild in Allentown and Lehigh. And I have a message. Peacefully, we are coming for your seat in 2027. If you don't resign today,
have at it.
I am coming for your seat peacefully. And Harvey, Commissioner Harvey, this goes for you too. You are complicit. Mark Elias and his cronies must be disbarred from practicing law in Pennsylvania, any of his cronies, for the misconduct that they did. I want you to know that I am going to spend all of my time in Bucks County for the next 3 years, making sure that we take back this county. Thank you to every single patriot that showed up today. We did
Here,
And
here.
I don't know if anybody noticed the little the sign language interpreter at the bottom when she said we did it. It's like
That's fun. Now, I did notice that one county commissioner, that Diane Marsiglia, when he said peacefully, "We're
Mhm.
coming for your seat," she's like, "Bring it on, bring it."
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. There's another point about this, and
I don't
I
think they
think
realized the scope of what Scott Pressler did in Pennsylvania.
no,
In their
no,
county.
and they don't realize the scope of what is yet available for him to do, because I think Scott, I'm not saying he didn't know this before the election, but I think it really sunk in on him post-election. Remember that old great line, "It's not who votes, it's who counts the votes"?
Mhm.
Well, I think that Republican activists like Scott Pressler and many others are realizing, look, we have got to get control of county clerk's offices, of county commission offices, of, county boards of election. I mean, whatever structure is set up in that particular jurisdiction, that, grassroots Republican activists, or not even Republican activists, let's just say conservatives or libertarians, what have you, they're realizing, hey, if we're going to get big, we got to go small. We've got to take care of these nuts and bolts mechanical issues when it comes to counting votes, who's in charge of it, the processes, the transparency, etc. And I think Pressler's onto something here. If he takes what he's about to do in Bucks County and duplicates it throughout the rest of Pennsylvania, oh baby, he's onto something. He really is.
Yeah, and of course, there is a short video that they show of the lady getting hit, throwing a hissy fit, and taking a 5-minute recess. So yeah. So, but she doesn't realize that what he did in Bucks and for Allentown and Lehigh, which were heavily Democratic areas, to flip to red.
Yep.
It's huge. Not only does he have a voter base, and he's going to spend, like he said, most of his time in Pennsylvania, he's also getting together a ground game in New Jersey. They're going after New Jersey, which is awesome. So he's probably going to be between the two. And that they're neighbors. It's not like he has to go very far.
That's right.
So he's going to be doing that. But also he has the legal system to come after her. What she did was breaking the law, and it just takes Scott Pressler and the constituents of Pennsylvania put enough pressure on Josh Shapiro that he's going to force his attorney general, I would say, to go after her, which is what should happen.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I mean, when the state Supreme Court, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not aware, the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court is comprised of a majority of Democrat jurists. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They ruled on this issue back in August, I want to say it was, and said, look, you can't count ballots that come in after the election. And furthermore, you can't count them if they're like, if dates are missing, if this is missing, if that's missing. So the court had already ruled on this. Yeah. Well, it's like she said, I don't care what the precedent said. I mean, we don't acknowledge it in this country anyway. If I feel like ignoring it, I want attention brought to this issue. Whoa, Commissioner. Commissioner Marcy.
Entire legal system is based on court precedent. Yes, legislatures make up laws, but courts interpret them. And that is what our entire legal system is based on.
And the whole fabric of our social contract is not just the fact that we live by precedent. We adhere to it once it's handed down. If somebody like her or any other public official can just say, screw it, I don't care what the court says, I'm going to do whatever I want, then you've got a situation where everything is about to fall apart. And one person doing it in isolation, you might be able to get away with it. A whole bunch of people doing it simultaneously, and all hell breaks loose, which is way not good for anybody.
Absolutely. Thanks to everybody chattering in the chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And if you don't mind, give us a share over on Twitter.
Yep.
Or Facebook or whatever social media you might be on. Try to bring some more people in. We always have a lively, good conversation over here. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it's just blatant, in your face cheating. Okay, not even cheating, just breaking the law.
Yeah.
Just breaking the law.
Yeah. And then the court, having ruled on it earlier, now has to come back in the face of 2 lawsuits, by the way, filed quite appropriately by the RNC. Now the court has to come back in, look at these Democrat commissioners in Bucks County and go, cool it. We told you how this was going to go. Mind your P's and Q's and obey our ruling on this. So
absolutely.
I'd say there's a lot of butt chewing going on inside the Democrat Party in Pennsylvania over the next few days.
Oh yeah, there's going to be some ramifications for sure.
Absolutely.
And they'll try to bury it on page 12, as we said back in the days of actual newspapers. They might oust that woman. She might get a fine. She might get some jail time or prosecuted or something, but they're going to try to bury it on page 12. We have to make sure it's not buried on page 12. We have to make that front page news so that people know you can't just blatantly do that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I think that, there's a long, hard road ahead, but the tools are in place for a lot of people with just a little bit of effort to make a huge amount of difference. And that to me is one of the glorious things about the time we're about to enter. I mean, some people have taken it to calling it the new golden age. Well, jury's still out on that, but it's getting to be wide open again. I heard something the other day, slightly related, but I got to share it. 𝗙𝗂𝗋𝗄𝗏, the CEO of Rumble, is expressed an interest in buying Google Chrome. And I'm like, ooh, oh yeah. You know where I'm going with this. You can see the potential. Apparently, the Justice Department either has or is about to rule, look, Google/YouTube has a monopoly, and under antitrust law, we're going to break this up, which, by the way, it has to be really, really bad for the Justice Department to brush off old antitrust laws because they've been ignoring them for years. Okay.
As long as the companies are on their side. But now that there's evidence that Google is loosening up, going more to the middle.
Yeah.
Now that Twitter is in the X is in the hands of free speech advocate Elon Musk.
Yep.
That other things are breaking out. Blue Sky's taking off, even though I think it's just a leftist echo chamber that will eventually fail. But there are there's Rumble out there, which I think will become as big as YouTube in the next 10 years or so. So they're seeing that they have to go towards the middle. And now the government, okay, we're going to break you up because you're no longer doing our propaganda.
Yeah. And if 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 gets a hold of Google Chrome, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the amount of searches that are done every day on Google Chrome. And it's been well documented for years that the algorithm either promotes certain stories or hides certain stories. If you get somebody like a 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and his engineers to go into the guts of Google Chrome and do to it what Elon and his boys did for Twitter, and again, Twitter is not perfect. It's a long way from there. Okay, I get it. But it's also come a long way. If 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and his boys get a hold of Google Chrome, oh man, that is a big step in the right direction. Because where do people go to get information? They're usually going to Google Chrome or they're going to YouTube. Now, does that mean he's going to get a hold of YouTube? No. But if he gets a hold of Google Chrome, big step in the right direction.
No one uses Microsoft Edge unless you're forced to. I mean, no one uses that. I mean, but yeah, I can Google something. Like back during the election, if I Googled something about Trump, I got only negative information.
Yep.
Or headlines with a negative spin, and you have to go into the guts to find out what they're really saying. Or I got positive stuff about Kamala.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
all you got. Literally, I did a video where I was showing I just want to see, and also they know most people don't read the actual article. They just look at the headline and they move on. And so they word these headlines in a way that makes everything look bad for their opponent and good for the person they're trying to prop up.
Yep.
Or they hide
Absolutely.
stories completely.
Yep. No,
Or they
absolutely.
bury them on the 3rd or 4th page of search results.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's a lot of reason, but yeah, going back to 𝗙𝗶𝗵, that young man, I mean, I know he's got ideas and dreams ahead of him he wants to pursue, but I tell you what, for how far he's come in the past 4 years, that boy has done miracles, absolute miracles.
He's a fine young man and got beautiful hair. I got to say it. I want to know what he uses on that hair.
And great fashion sense, by the way.
Yeah.
Boots, blue jean, the blazer, you know, boy's got good fashion sense.
Great man. All right. So I know we've got a lot of news to get through tonight, so we're going to leave this and move on. What you got for us, Brian? Your first story.
𝗙𝗂𝗃.
Oh.
Had this, you know, if someone would have said the name 𝗙𝗃𝗃 to me 8 years ago, I wouldn't really have known that much about him, but what I would have known, I would have just spit on the ground at the mention of his name. However, ever since the election's been over with, 𝗙𝗃𝗃 has been on a tear. And when I say he's been on a tear, you might sit there and think to yourself, well, he's just ripping into conservatives and ripping into Republicans, No, quite the opposite, my friends. He's ripping into his fellow progressives on the left and trying to tell them why it is that they lost this election. Well, 𝗙𝗃 was recently invited on Piers Morgan's show, and which he's a frequent guest, so no big shock there. So he's on there with Juan Williams of Fox News, I think 𝗟𝗀𝗃, and more particularly Professor Alan Lichtman. Now, if the name Professor Alan Lichtman means anything to you guys, Alan is the originator of what he calls the 13 keys. Lichtman claims that he has accurately predicted every presidential election going back 40 plus years, with one exception, the 2000 election between George W. Bush and Vice President Al Gore. Well, quite obviously, Lichtman missed the 2024 election, and he's been trying to figure out exactly why he did that. So
let's check that out.
Oh yes, this is.
Let's check out the clip, and then we'll talk about it. Hold that thought so you can see exactly. But yeah, 𝗙𝗃's a frequent guest on Piers Morgan. He just yells and screams, and it's fun to work. But they had like literally a whole panel of Democrats, including 𝗟𝗃𝗃 and his little pansy butt. Let's check it out and let me know, everybody. Brian, let me know if people are having trouble hearing it.
Okay. Oh, I love Adam's comment. 𝗙𝗃 absolutely destroyed Nostradamus. Oh, that's a great line. That's an absolutely great line.
The voters. I think, look, we could get into this discussion, but one, I think you're blaming the voters.
Everybody hear it?
That's a terrible idea. And look, I debated Professor Lichtman before. I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
couldn't
not
find
right,
him
and
before
I
the
was
election.
not wrong, and that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be
who
taking
won?
cheap
who
shots
won?
at me.
Who
You
won?
want to make your
you
point,
live
make your
in
point.
a total
Don't make it
world of
personal.
denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you, every one of them, and supported me.
Yeah,
so quiet with your personal.
Yeah, come find out again.
Make whatever point you want.
Yeah.
Don't make it personal.
You don't know anything. You don't know anything.
You attacked me personally.
You're so deluded.
Oh, right. I've only been a professor for 51 years.
On this program, I've never been able to finish a thought.
How many books have you published?
Hold on right here. Hold on a minute.
Attacking me again. Say whatever you want.
Okay. This whole thing about I've published 13 books and you know, I've written and I've been teaching for 40 or 50 years. And I have a question for the Right Honorable Professor Lichtman. Your point is what? Dude, you messed up. Your glorious keys, as you call them, did not work in this election. 𝗙𝗃𝗃 is absolutely right to point out, you know, he said it somewhat crassly, but he's right. You were wrong. I was right. And now Lichtman's like, oh, you cannot say these things. Oh, he's got some further comments. We get into the rest of this clip, but it's just the arrogance of the man. But then again, it could be Alan Lichtman, it could be 𝗟𝗀𝗏, University of Virginia, it could be any of these guys. It just go ahead.
Even lefty YouTubers that have no academic credentials or Destiny, Vosh. I was listening to like a breakdown of Vosh's election cover. Just they love to smell their own farts. The elitism that Vosh was talking about. He says, if we lose this election, you know, if you think I was hard on the farmers before, you just wait. They all have such a disdain for the average American.
Yep.
They really do.
Yeah, and it just what gets me is, oh, and believe me, there's another comment that Lichtman's going to make here in a minute where I'll just go ahead and preface it now. He more or less blames the voters for not being smart enough to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, which you'll hear it here in a minute. But and that's one thing about this election, and a lot of other people, far better commentators than I have talked about this. 2024 may be the election where the so-called election mafia, these pollsters and certain pundits that everybody in the press turns to, finally their credibility is just absolutely right down the toilet.
Like Lindsay says here, the entire election, with the exception of the accurate pollsters, like your People's Pundit, like Rasmussen, like Red Eagle, like some of these others. But you had like the Des Moines Register has totally ruined their reputation by publishing Ann Seltzer's. And, you know, she's now retiring from polling. Of course she is. You can't tell me that her tabs, she never released the tabs, first of all, the tabs of her data so anybody could see it. Any reputable pollster, if you're looking for one, they will also release their tabs. It's just a spreadsheet of all the people they contact, the questions and the answers. It may look like Greek, but most all accurate ones will release those. Of course, she didn't release those.
No.
And she knew she was on her way out. And she published a bogus poll as a form of propaganda, and she's finished herself.
Yeah. And not just Ann Seltzer. Like I say, this is the frustration that a lot of people, be it news junkies like me or Tracy or, you know, content creators or others, if it were just one miss by the polling intelligentsia, like 2016, you could say, okay, they missed one. Twice with 2020, they overstated Joe Biden, or they overstated the Democrat support. Okay, even if it wasn't Biden, they would still have overstated the support the Democrats would have got. But now 3 elections in a row by the same firms, making the same mistakes with the same issues. I am to the point going forward, and I'm just speaking for myself here. If someone comes up to me and says, hey, did you see the latest Quinnipiac poll? It's like, yeah, I need something for the bottom of my birdcage. Thank you. Yeah, I'm to that point. Polls. It's like, I'm done. There are certain pollsters
that I recommend.
Yeah. If there are certain pollsters that publish a poll going forward, I'm going to be like, no, I don't care. Now, if it comes from like Barris or Rasmussen or Trafalgar or Insider Advantage or Atlas
Intel or Red Eagle or
Red Eagle, any of those cats, okay, then I'll pay attention. Why? Because they're accurate. They are accurate.
And they are not afraid to say that they think our guy's losing. And they're more right-leaning, but they are not afraid to say, I think our guy's losing. Unlike left-leaning polls that will do everything they can to make it look like their guy's winning.
Yep, absolutely. Anyway, let's get back to the rest of the clip, because this stuff is just downright funny. What happens next? This is great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Lichtman and Cenk. Yeah, Lichtman and Cenk are. This gets fun.
And Lichtman, he just looks like a.
Skeletor?
I don't know, like a man, like a. No, not Skeletor, like a ventriloquist dummy. I swear.
Yeah.
I can see Jeff Dunham with his hand up his ass. It just.
Yeah.
You got it wrong. You were preposterously and stupidly wrong. So, okay, all right. Can I just
Don't
finish a
call me
goddamn thought
stupid.
ever on this show?
No, not if you're
Okay,
personally.
well,
I
you proved
admitted
it.
I was wrong. I don't need you to call me stupid.
Okay.
Can I just say
What
it's
kind
great
of
to see
nonsense
you
is that?
Democrats
Yeah, I
all
know.
getting
Who
along
taught
so
you
well.
manners?
It's lovely to
Unity
see
is
a
wonderful.
Can I
post-election
finish a
harmony as you all
goddamn
come
point?
together
We're
again.
just
Hey,
one
Alan,
right now.
shh. Hey, Alan, you deserve a tall glass of shut up juice. So can you just shut up for a second and let someone who knows what
Not
they're
if
doing
you're
You're so
gonna
right,
personally
Pierce.
attack
You're
me.
so right.
So-
We're so
Make any
unified right
point
now.
you want.
So
I will not sit here and stand for personal attacks, for blasphemy against me. You don't need to do
Blasphemy.
You don't boost your
blasphemy
ego
against you?
by
Who the hell are
attacking
you?
that.
Jesus
Just
Christ,
make your
you
points.
loser. Okay, can
Make your
can I
points.
just give the correct answer for once?
Now, I mean, look, I think Harry Stinson is a little twerp. I freely admit that. I think he and the rest
Yeah.
of his twink Democrat operative buddies of his are a bunch of just do nothing idiots. But even he's sitting there laughing at this because he knows Cenk Uygur's right. He knows he is. You know, and like I say,
Absolutely.
Lichtman, Larry Sabato, all these supposed venerated people, you know, that give their opinion about what's going to happen in election, their credibility is gone. After this one, they're done. Yes, will they be turned to by certain people in the media? Yeah, they will. But people aren't going to pay attention anymore, or at least not the way they used to. You know, because the partisanship is coming out.
There's Adam Lichtman.
Yeah.
That's Adam Lichtman.
I mean, oh God. Oh Lord. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, going forward, these guys are not going to be listened to. And, you know, to go back to that theme that, you know, Elon keeps hammering on, we are now the media. Independent content creators, and Chris from My Morning Mayhem keeps hammering this point home, and he's absolutely right. They're going to start turning to you. They're going to start turning to me. They're going to start turning to him. They're going to start turning to Robert from the Washcast, you know, Sean from, you know, 𝗟𝗏𝗽. I mean, how different I mean, Mike Harlow, Carrie Smith, on and on and on. I could go with a whole list of names, and we are going to be turned to, and people are going to say, what are they saying about it? Now, could we always get it wrong?
Yeah.
Sure. Freely acknowledge that.
Absolutely. I mean, we interpret news. I mean, we don't break news. I mean, we're not big enough outfits that we have people on the ground, but we're not, you know, CBS or something like that. But we can interpret the news that comes across the wire and give you a pretty moderate take on it, which is what a journalist should do.
Well, and that's just it. Interpret and explain. In other words, here's what this data means. Not what I think it means, not what I want it to mean. Here's what it means. And now here's the information. You decide what it means for you. And you go from there. So, yeah, I think, that whole exchange. And like I said, another thing that I find fascinating now, on a side note, and this is going to become more and more evident with the passing of time, the lock between the left and the right is done. You're now going to have folks like Cenk Uygur and Donald Trump will occasionally get together on some issues. Bernie Sanders. Go ahead.
Bernie endorsed some of Trump's ideas on Twitter. I said that was not on my 2024 bingo card. And the same with Cenk. He's been tweeting at Elon Musk and Donald Trump Jr. Asking for a help audit the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I'm going to the Young Turks for a middle of the road interpretation. Now, at least their main show, not their all other little offshoot shows. They still have their lefty activists that work all those little offshoot shows. But the main Young Turk show that streams in the morning and at night, they are given a very balanced interpretation of the news now.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Bernie Sanders out there who said, I'll work with Trump on this idea of capping interest rates on credit cards. Sure. Show me what you got. Let's see if we can get together on this. You're going to see the populist right and the populist left that get together and go, okay, look, we don't agree on everything, but I think we agree in principle enough. Let's see if we can find a way to work together. And to me, if it breaks the stranglehold of what we got right now with the establishment in Washington, D.C., Not just yes, hell yes, let's do it.
Absolutely.
It's going to make for some
Absolutely.
strange. It'll make for some strange bedfellows for a while, but it's got the potential to do a lot for the American people in the long run.
Absolutely. It's a great thing. This is what we needed. This is the unity that we needed, which is
Yeah.
why I don't think the term golden age is too far off. That is my opinion. I'm not saying that it's going to absolutely be, but it's a lot closer to that than it is to center. That's the way I'm interpreting it. I think
Yeah.
we've got a really good shot of unifying this country. There's always going to be the crazies over here on the extreme left and the crazies over there on the far, far, far right.
Yep.
But everyone else, we're right here. And I
Yep.
think it's good.
Absolutely. And with that, I will give you it's back to you.
All right. Well, this is just a quick little blurb. This is a case that occurred in 1994. I don't know. I'm sure most of you that are Gen X or older will probably remember it. Maybe not so much if you were a millennial or are younger. But this is a case that was near and dear to my heart. It's one of the first ones I covered on my true crime channel. And it's the case of Susan Smith, who in 1994, to rid herself of her young boys, both under the age of 4, basically allowed her Mazda with them in it to roll into John D. Lone Lake outside of Columbia, South Carolina, and then blamed a fictional black man for kidnapping them and caused a stir. She went on, her and her then husband David, who was not involved, they were separated at the time, went on every morning show. Oprah, America's Most Wanted, was going to do a segment until their local law enforcement figured out that she did it. And she did it to rid herself of the children so that she could marry a rich boyfriend that she had. And she came up, she was given life. The DA sought the death penalty, but in the end, the jury gave her life with the possibility of parole after 30 years. She has now surpassed 30 years, and so she will come up for parole every 2 years, and she was denied parole during her first parole hearing, much because her ex-husband, David Smith, as well as some of the prosecutors and law enforcement from that original case were there. And she made a very good, put on a very good show of feeling remorse, but didn't get it. And David Smith has said he will be there every 2 years until the day he dies to make sure she never walks out of prison.
Yep.
And that's her during her parole hearing.
She hasn't changed that much.
No, she hasn't. She still looks like she did in 1994.
Yep. Yeah.
I do want to address this. Duke says Boeing is down 42. Yeah, Boeing is laying off 10% of their workforce, as are a lot of heavy industrial people. Honda is doing some layoffs. And of course, the left is blaming Trump's tariffs. Has nothing to do with Trump's tariffs. Has everything to do with the business just being down over the last 4 years. I love it when they blame somebody that's not even in power right now.
Oh, I know. It just kind of cracks me up. No, the fact that they pursued DEI policies and, changed the standards of craftsmanship that they've made airplanes with for decades. No, I had nothing to do with any of the, any of their problems with their stock price. No.
And they also say Boeing also sees the writing on the wall because they do weapons manufacturing, not as much as some of the others, but they do. And they see that peace is about to come.
Yeah. Yeah. And that it can't come soon enough for my taste. It really can't, because we're like, right. Yeah. Very scary. Very scary.
Yeah.
Hey, hello, Dead Shred.
Shred, and thank you for reaching out. I do a lot of things, but I do a lot of Gen X nostalgia, so I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm sending you something in private chat for when we get around to it.
Okay, I'm ready to move on. I just wanted to point out that Susan Smith got denied parole, and I'm kind of glad.
Well, there you go. Well, speaking of peace in the world, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what I sent over to 𝗙𝗂𝗃 to pop up when she's got a second. As you all are well aware, over the weekend, Ukraine, at the authorization of the Biden administration, has launched long-range missiles inside the territory of Russia. And about a day or so ago, the British followed suit. They gave the Ukrainians permission to fire missiles made by Great Britain, and the same thing with ours, to launch long-range missiles inside of Russia. Now, according to the Russians, at this point, the missiles did not have any effect, or they were able to turn
Donbass.
back. Yeah, Donbass. They were able to turn back the missiles in such a way that there was minimal damage. However, this is just one more step on the road to escalation.
And then
Go ahead.
And then they fired some UK missiles, shadow missiles as well. So yeah, it's and all this happened when the world leaders were at the G2 summit in Peru or in South America.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize just how dangerous a period that we're in. And the worst part about it, there's a number of things about this that are bad. The Russians are not going to take this for much longer without some kind of retaliation. Putin cannot afford to sit there and look weak. Putin has also said if these missiles are launched inside our territory and they are American and British-made missiles, we will consider that an act of war by the West against the sovereign Russia state. And we have the authorization, as far as we're concerned, to retaliate with a nuclear strike. Now, the saving grace in all this, and this was reported late this afternoon, that according to reports coming out of Europe, Putin has said, look, I'm willing to sit down with the Ukrainians to try and negotiate peace on one condition. Trump heads up the negotiations. And that might be our saving grace here.
Which leads me to believe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not a military expert, but that leads me to believe that Putin does not want to get into a nuclear exchange right now. He knows that if he does fire some short-range tactical and takes out Kiev or takes out, Ukraine in general, that all of NATO is going to come down on him, and he's probably going to be gone, wiped off the face of the earth. He knows this. Yeah. He's not willing to do that. He's certainly not going to fire one over here in North America. But, and he knows this. So he's willing to respond conventionally, which is what they've been doing. They've been barraging Kiev all day today. He's going to continue to respond conventionally in the hopes that Trump will negotiate a peace. And he's also said he does not want to cede any of the territory that he's had. So that he's taken. This is my prediction. There will be a peace. It will be a forced peace that Trump brings down the hammer and says, now, kids, you gotta work this out.
Yep.
Putin, you're going to keep the land that you've already got because those people are mostly native Russian. Anybody that does not want to live under Russian rule can go further into Ukraine.
Yep.
Ukraine will accept them. We're going to put up a demilitarized zone, just like there is between North and South Korea. And he's going to force EU troops or NATO peacekeepers to patrol the area.
Yep. Absolutely. And I shot you one more clip in private chat. This is a discussion between Tucker Carlson and Glenn Greenwald. And, I don't always get the chance to follow Glenn's work, but on certain issues, I can agree with him. Some things, no, not so much. But Glenn has got a really clear-eyed take on this whole thing and has for the longest time. And I found this clip before we came on, and I thought this was really good. And, the title of it is We Are on the Brink of Global War. And the clear-eyed assessment that both of these men have where this issue is concerned, I think really ought to be listened to. So, with that, folks, I hope you enjoy this and check this out.
Terrifying. I don't think I'm sort of overstating that. I mean, we are on the brink of global war. But can I just say one thing about that? Aren't you
kind of amazed by how impervious and dismissive media and political elites are of the prospect of nuclear war.
Well, it's unimaginable, and yes, and I mean that's
like they think it can't happen.
Source
it
of
won't happen, it's
ongoing
not worth thinking about.
frustration. Yeah, and I will say the one thing that Trump has said repeatedly over the past, certainly since he left the presidency 4 years, that he's received no credit for and should get enormous credit for, is that nuclear war is the worst thing. He was, of course, been briefed on it as the person who controlled the launch codes. He knows what it means. And anyone who spends 5 minutes looking into what a nuclear exchange would actually, do is terrified of it. But only Trump seems worried about it. I don't understand why.
I've said this, I've talked about this so many times. And I think it goes back to when Trump was president, in the early stages of presidency. Every time Trump talks about the prospect of nuclear war, he knows that he's limited in what everything he can divulge, but he's so clearly trying to signal, and he often says it, these weapons are of a different universe than even the ones we dropped in Japan.
That's correct.
And he's obviously, as you said, understands and been briefed on.
But you see these morons at the Atlantic Council or AEI or Hudson or this cluster of the dumbest people in the world, all implicated in the Iraq disaster, say, well, maybe tactical nukes are fine.
That an nuclear war
that's
can
like
be
such
contained.
Next level crazy. Like that's crazier than any schizophrenic sitting next to you on a public subway.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's crazy.
We constantly call like RFK Jr. They call him crazy.
Okay.
They call 𝗠𝘂𝘀𝗶 crazy. Whoever, these people in foreign policy are the most insane people on the planet. It's because
actually
the United States has been the most powerful country in the world. No one could constrain it. No one could stand up to it. And as is true with everything, that level of unconstrained power corrupts people.
That is
and
correct.
These people
That
have
is
been
correct.
in control of this power for decades.
That is correct.
Passed on one to another through this dogma that gets increasingly out of touch and detached from reality. And
megalomaniacal.
Exactly.
And
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so many people, you and I are Gen X, baby boomers, our generations, maybe not so much millennials because they were born kind of after it, we're very, very young. But I remember having drills at school where we would hide under our desks in the event of a nuclear fallout. That scares me to death. These people that are living in these ivory towers, they are so far from reality. They don't have an idea. They don't know. It's the end of the world if that happens. If you don't get killed in the initial blast, which is going to be instantaneous, if you're looking at it directly, you're going to be blind, and you're going to be deaf from the intense radiation and the blast. If you survive that, you're going to die of radiation sickness within 10 days after that. The atmosphere, wherever those hits, within a 100-mile radius, is going to be polluted for the next 40 years. Nothing's going to grow there. So, okay, a short-range tactical nuke is fine. You've destroyed whatever's around that tactical nuke for 40, 50 years. You talk about that's going to cause food shortages. It's going to cause droughts. It's going to cause acid rain. They don't realize how destructive it is.
Yeah. They have no thought or consequence for anyone else other than their own selfish desires to maintain and hold on to power. They've taken care of themselves, they think. Mm-hmm. And you have, Glenn Greenwald and Tucker Carlson are absolutely right. The destructive power of these missiles, if one of them were turned loose, everybody has the image of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. The destructive capability of these missiles has been upgraded since the 1940s. Keep in mind, we've only launched 2 of them as an act of war against another nation. We haven't dropped one as an act of war since the 1940s. Does anybody think that we haven't figured out ways to make them more lethal and more destructive?
For anybody out there that wants a real look at what it would be like, and it would probably be even worse now because both of these films were made in the 80s. Check out The Day After Tomorrow, or The Morning After, the Day After, and Threads. These are 2 fictional movies that were made. One was made in the UK by the BBC. One was made here in the United States. Check out The Day After the day after and Threads. They frightened the hell out of me as an elementary school student. That's the reason. The minute you say nuke, I'm cowering in a corner in a fetal position. I don't want any part of it. I would rather go in the initial blast than have to suffer what's going to come after. They don't realize how desolate and how terrible it's going to be afterwards.
Yeah.
Isn't that horrible that I'd rather die in the...
No, I mean, I think that's a very clear-eyed, sober look at what's happening. I mean, you know, even if you survive it, you won't. If the radiation doesn't get you, the lack of food and water will get you, the loneliness will get you. I mean, yeah, I would much rather be taken out in the blast, you know, and just, you know, deal with eternity. Yeah. Because life on Earth is never going to be the same again.
And like I said, I don't think Putin is going to do that. That's the reason he said, I'm open to peace. But if it goes, south with Trump, we might be in trouble. But I think they'll negotiate a peace. I really do.
Absolutely.
And Trump hasn't tweeted about it. If Trump hasn't tweeted about it, then I think Trump's got it well in hand. He's probably already spoken to Putin.
Well, I saw, who was it? It was going back up in chat. 𝗙𝗫𝗃9. There's a big, long, like 5 or 6 line, starts out with, so are you guys doing news only or, but it's the second sentence. I read on a deep web post that Trump has already presented Russia and Ukraine with a peace plan. Putin liked it. Not so sure about 𝗬𝗫𝗀. I have not heard this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has. I really wouldn't. You're muted.
If Trump doesn't tweet about it, he's not so much worried about it. So I think we're okay for now. We got to get Trump into office. I wish we could change the Constitution to have the new president-elect take power the next day or the next week. I hate having to wait till January 20th. It's just... Ugh.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it opens the door for what Biden's doing right now. That's the part that makes you crazy. Because, I've heard, any number of commentators, Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, any number of people make the statement, the most dangerous period in this election will be between November 6th and January 20th, because Biden and his sycophants will still have control of the mechanisms of power. And that's the part that is truly scary. Truly.
It makes you wonder what could happen. I don't think, Jinping, I don't think he's going to make any play for Taiwan right now. He could, thinking that there's a lame duck in the White House. I think the fact that an unhinged bull in a china shop like Trump that's back in power has greatly increased our viability on the world stage.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And
yes, and Lindsay, you're right. EMPs do exist as well. A nuclear blast also sets off an EMP, which kills all electricity and all technology for miles around.
Yep. It's kind of funny because I remember reading a story years ago, and it may have been Charles Colson who told this one, that the Russian ambassador came to the White House for a visit. And they had him in some room in the basement or whatever. And he had seen Nixon, and Nixon was ranting and raving about something that Brezhnev, who was then the Soviet premier, had done or said or whatever. Well, they took this Russian ambassador down to another room. They said, okay, just stay here. Let me see if I can calm him down, and I'll be right back with you. Well, the guy comes back in the room. He's like, man, I don't know what you did or what you said, but the president is just even more furious. That was a fake out. Nixon wanted his opponents to be scared to death of him. Not that he necessarily wanted them to view him as some wild-eyed maniac, but he wanted them to be unbalanced in terms of how they would deal with him. Not quite sure what he will or will not do. Trump is much the same way. People criticized, the taking out of Soleimani in the tail end of Trump's first term. Okay, we can sit here and argue that all day long. Did the Iranians give the Americans any more trouble after that for a while? No.
Trump was doing what he should have done. He was making it very difficult for them economically.
Yep.
With the help of the Saudis, and then took out one of their main leaders of their terrorists, of both their army and some of their terrorists, and one of their terrorist proxies. They backed the F down. And that's what's going to happen now. He's going to start. He's not going to go to war with Iran. He's going to put economic pressure on them that will cripple their economy to the point that I think the people of Iran will take care of it. And it wouldn't surprise me that if there's not a CIA operation while Trump's in power or Vance is in power after Trump, that will arm the Iranian people and they will depose the Ayatollah. They did it to the Shah. They'll do it to him.
Yeah, but then again, given America's track record with installing new governments, I'm not so sure I want the State Department or the CIA.
I'm not saying install a new government. Just arm the rebels and let them handle it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got no problem with that.
Send them some humanitarian aid so people don't starve to death and let them set up their own government. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is we could have had this regime removed in Tehran for the past 20 years, if only but for a little bit of a push from the American government. Because, when Obama came in 2009, the Green Revolution was going on in Iran. Millions of young people taking to the streets, demonstrating they don't want to live under this crazy theocracy that the mullahs had set up. All Obama had to do was just give them a little bit of a verbal push, and it would have moved them in the right direction. Nope. Wouldn't touch it. Would not touch it. And it was just heartbreaking. Just absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah. I think we're okay for now.
Agreed.
Putin's just going to respond conventionally. And I don't care if Zelensky's not going to be able to push Russia totally out of his country and lock it down. Not with his arm, not without NATO support. And I think Trump's about to withdraw United States support, at least in the magnitude that it is. And that's going to effectively withdraw NATO support. NATO's not going to act without the United States. So Zelensky can't win this war unless he wins it before in the next month. He can't win this war. He knows that. He's going to have to cede that land, which is mostly native Russians. I think most of them would probably rather be a Russian than a Ukrainian. Any of that don't, give them the opportunity to move back into Ukraine. That's fine.
Yep.
But he can't win this war. And I don't think Putin can carry on this war much longer. The casualties are catastrophic. Why do you think he brought North Korean troops in? He's hurting for troops. I think the Russian army is finished for the next 20 years until another generation grows up. And that's the reason China has been remarkably silent on it. They know Russia's army's in the toilet.
Yep, absolutely. And
you notice India's been talking big too, giving Russia the finger and standing up to China too. India's actually standing up to China.
India is right on the verge. They're right on the verge of economic and military power in the world. They really are.
And I think they're going to throw in with us now that Trump's back in power. The Saudis are going to throw in with us. It's going to be a good, if we can get Trump for 4 years and Vance for 8 years, and then maybe, somebody else, Gabbard or somebody after that, it's going to be a good 12, 16 years.
Yes, and your lips to God's ear that we can actually control the executive branch, shrink the size of government, root out these corrupt actors in the State Department, the Department of Defense, the CIA, the Justice Department, the FBI, and then put the country back on a track toward peaceful strength. People, and I'll get off this soapbox. People will say, well, you're a dove. You don't want to fight the Russians. I don't want to fight anybody. I want a military strong enough that if somebody messes with us, we're going to curb stomp them. But I don't want us going out and looking to curb stomp everybody just because they put our nose out of joint.
Word on the street is that Trump told Putin while he was in office that if he invaded Ukraine or tried to seize any more land, we would bomb Moscow. And Putin believed him.
Well, and that goes back to what I was saying. You never want whoever you're in a negotiation with to know fully what you will and will not do. That's part of what makes Trump so unique. You never know what he's going to come up with.
Yeah. Trump told a story to Ben Shapiro saying he told Putin, I will bomb Moscow. And Putin says, no, you won't. You don't have the capability. He goes, or do I? He said, Trump just looked at Putin and said, or do I?
Yep. I can see Trump doing that. Yep.
Putin respects Trump.
Yeah,
and
that's just it.
Zelensky better respect him or he's going to get spanked.
Well, and I mean, that goes to something else that's a frustration of mine when it comes to the way we view Russia. You can respect your opponent without necessarily liking them. I mean, I don't understand. Well, it's a sign of immaturity as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, all these people are like, oh, you're a Putin lover. No, I thoroughly concede he can be a thoroughgoing SOB. I know that. But I marvel at the man's intelligence, his resourcefulness. Man's been in office for 25 years as the head of the Russian Federation. The guy knows his way around. He's respected around the world.
And if Bill Clinton had allowed Russia to enter NATO back in the 90s, they wanted to join NATO. The very thing that NATO was created to defend against wanted to join NATO and come back to the West. People mean it. Russia is a Western country in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
They need to be brought back into the fold of the West because we should be going closer to them as being allies. We don't have to like them, but we can be allies with them because then we turn toward our real enemy, which is China. China is not even going to attempt to take on a unified world with Russia, the United States, India all on the same side.
Absolutely. And, we have, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, we have dealt with the Russians stupidly since the end of the Cold War. We really have. We have treated them like a subservient enemy as opposed to a potential ally that we could bring back to the fold. And it just, we're here because of our own hubris. If you really get right down to it, we're here by our own arrogance. So,
because look at that. If that happened, it would be China, North Korea against the rest of the world because even the rest of the Asian countries, Japan, Korea, South Korea, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, they're all on our side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, it's all yours, dear.
All right. Well, the next matter of business, going back to crime time, I'm going to go over the case of Laken Riley. We all know what happened. Her murderer, 𝗂𝗂𝗪𝗂, was found guilty today on all 10 counts and was sentenced to life in prison with no parole. But we're going to watch the sentencing, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
One, malice murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 4, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 5, kidnapping with bodily injury. I find the defendant guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault with intent to rape. I find the defendant guilty. Count 7, aggravated battery. I find the defendant guilty. Count 8, obstructing or hindering a 911 call. I find the defendant guilty. Count 9, tampering with evidence. I find the defendant guilty. Count 10, peeping Tom. I find the defendant guilty.
and he is a member of the Venezuelan gang, Trade. I can't say the name, but you know what I'm talking about. The one that has been. Go ahead.
𝗠𝘂𝗪𝗏, I believe is how it's pronounced.
𝗠𝘂𝗪𝗏. It's been noted to take over apartment buildings in both San Antonio and Aurora, Colorado. It's been noted by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation that they are now in all major Tennessee cities and probably in a city near you. They are literally taking over because they're flooding across the border. He was given a federal passage to Georgia after illegally coming across the border from New York, where he was also found guilty of crimes there, but they didn't deport him then. And then he happened to come upon innocent Laken Riley, a nursing student at the University of Georgia who was out jogging, and he brutally assaulted and SA'd her and killed her. According to the trials, some of the witnesses and the forensic evidence, as well as the technological evidence, she fought for her life for 18 minutes.
Yeah.
And he bashed her skull in. And life in prison, in an American prison, without parole is not good enough for him. He needs to be executed in the most painful way possible, and then his dead body needs to be dropped into the middle of Venezuela. And I may get struck for saying that, but that's exactly the way I feel about it.
Does Georgia have the death penalty?
They do, and interesting you should say that, because the DA refused to pursue the death penalty. And when you see the DA, you'll know why.
Let me guess. A George Soros disciple?
There she is. Deborah Gonzalez.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. When's that brought up for re-election?
She was just up for re-election, and I think she got re-elected because it's a college town.
I'm like you. I wonder if he understands the intricacies and the complexities of a wood chipper.
Yeah,
could we
that
give
would
him
be
some
so easy.
Could we give him some up close and lessons on how it's used?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
18 minutes. 18 minutes. 18 minutes.
I don't want the FBI at my door, so I'm not going to say. But
okay,
I hope he gets some prison justice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But probably won't, because that 𝗠𝘂𝗪𝗏 is just as horrific in American prison, so he'll probably just join up with fellow gang members and be king of the roost in an American prison. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, I'm like you. I say we just take him back down to Venezuela and drop him off at prison. And when I say drop him off, I mean from a helicopter. Give me a little Pinochet action.
Yeah. Wood chipper, drop the rest over a Venezuelan farmland, and it can fertilize it.
You're getting no argument from me, dear. None whatsoever.
Yes, and I agree with Lindsay here. Yes, the DA needs to be removed. With all the liberal DAs and mayors that have been removed from liberal California on recall over the last election, very easy to do that in Georgia. That's what I will do. I will donate to a recall campaign to get her out of office.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, 18 minutes. That girl struggled for her life for 18 minutes. I mean, it just truly is just, and then, and I don't know if you want to show this or not, but I could drop
Duke,
this.
I'm a Christian. Yeah, go ahead. Duke, I'm a Christian. No. I believe in that. I believe in live and let live. But just the heinousness of this, and he shouldn't have even been here.
Yep.
There are some people that I believe the death penalty is absolutely appropriate for. Not in all cases, but he can never be rehabilitated. Anybody that would do what he did, to the stuff I listened to in that trial, to a human person, he can't be rehabilitated, and he needs to be. And plus, the fact he has a rap sheet a mile long, he needs to be eliminated from society. For the safety of others, he needs to be eliminated from society. It really has nothing to do with Christian forgiveness. It has to do with somebody that can't be rehabilitated.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose in one sense I'm a contradiction in that I am a Christian and I have no problem with the death penalty on the grounds that it's not a matter of retribution as it is restitution. You've taken a life. The only way to make restitute for that is that your life be forfeit.
Yeah,
That's
we're
the
sending
only
you
way
back
to
up
do
to
it.
your maker. He can sort it out. We send you to God, and God can sort it out. So anyway, but did you send me that, Brian?
Yes, ma'am, I did. It's from the New York Post, and you do not have to play it if you don't want to, but it was the family. It was the body cam from the police when they found out that Laken was dead. They played this in court, and they made him watch.
I don't want to play it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Because I know what's in it, but it's easily found. Everyone, in fact, most footage of the his roommate testified to the fact that he did it and how much aid they got from the federal government to be here.
Oh God,
that's made me sick. That they brought him here. They kept him here after he committed crimes in New York, and they gave him federal. He went back across, got back across, and they gave him federal passage to Georgia. Gave him means to stay in Georgia, and then this happened.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He never should have been here. Never.
I didn't say I wouldn't. He can be forgiven after he's paid his debt to society. God can forgive him. I'm sure Laken Riley's family will forgive him, but that doesn't mean he doesn't need to be removed from society, Duke.
I mean, forgiveness is one thing. Consequence to action are another. One is not necessarily the same as the other. So that's just me.
You can. I had a partner that cheated on me once. Begged for forgiveness. I forgave her, but I still broke up with her.
Yeah.
Because I can't ever trust her again. I forgave her, but she still had to suffer the consequences of what she did.
Absolutely. 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 But
Duke, if you're there, I totally... You're better a Christian than me. I'll just say that. And I love you, buddy. You know that. This is not me being hateful towards you. Please don't take it that way.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. That is one thing I'm looking forward to come January 20 is turn Tom Homan loose. Just turn him loose and deport as many of them as you can possibly put your hands on. Right back across the border you go. Back to the country where you came from, and with all due respect, don't you ever think about violating our border again. Not for a good long time.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. Well, do you have another topic you want to move on to?
I've got one more, and this is my last one for the night. And this is a piece of good news, and I'll go ahead and drop it in private chat, and I'll give Tracy a chance to pull it up. People say, well, I mean, I'll never forget, to set this up while Tracy's getting her hands on it, I'll never forget what Barack Obama said back in 2016 when Trump was promising to bring back manufacturing and bring back jobs. Obama said, well, what's he going to do? Wave the magic wand and go, well, Trump proved something without ever being in office. And that was a president or an incoming president can have a lot of Tracy, I sent you the wrong link. Hang on a minute. Sorry about that. I should have sent you where it came from.
Yeah, it's an article. It's not a...
Yeah. I just sent you the correct link. Anyway, everybody remembers that immediately upon Biden taking his hand off the Bible, the Keystone Pipeline went out the door. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Trump wants it back in. Now, there's an article from Politico, and it just posted today, It's written by 𝗵𝗫𝗄𝗃. Trump is looking to revive the Keystone Pipeline on his first day back at the White House, according to 3 people familiar with the president-elect's plan, even though no companies are trying to build it anymore. Trump believes declaring the 1,200-mile Canada to Nebraska crude project back on the table will drive pro-oil message he delivered in his campaign, said people involved with the transition team's discussion about the idea. Trump wants to show he can defy President Joe Biden. Oh, I don't think Trump has any problem doing that. Who reversed Trump's initial 2017 approval of the project, which was strongly opposed by the climate movement. I say hip, hip, hooray. I hope he pulls this off, because we have got to start. We have got to start moving in the direction of drilling our own oil, refining it here in the United States, because that's the other big thing people don't talk about enough. We could drill oil all day long. We do not have enough refining capacity. We haven't built a new refinery in this country in years. And that's one thing I'm hoping that Trump starts pushing toward.
Oh, we need to do that, and we need to look into manufacturing our microchips a lot quicker than we're doing it.
Absolutely.
A lot quicker. I have a controversial theory that would kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
All
if
right.
we could do it.
Okay.
Go over to Taiwan. Have a meeting with all the Taiwanese that produce the microchips.
Yep.
Offer them safe passage for themselves and their families. Any of them that want to immigrate to the United States legally. They're a Western nation. They already speak English. They'll assimilate very, very much. You take some of that desert land out in California that's just sitting there. You have Elon Musk or someone else build factories out there, microchip plants out there. You bring all these Taiwanese over. You give them a quick path to citizenship, and boom, we're in business. And also, you've just removed the very reason that China wants Taiwan.
Exactly. And that would probably de-escalate the Chinese from wanting to get their hands on Taiwan.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and you have westernized people that are skilled laborers that can come, that are skilled technicians that can come into this country, manufacture microchips at home, provide jobs, and also train others here to do the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I have no problem with either idea, either the Keystone or your proposal on microchips, because, you know, there's a lot. The thing that blew my mind about 2020, among other things, is, I mean, we've always known that we don't manufacture a lot of the things that we use here in the United States. But when we find out that China controls 90% of the manufacturing of our pharmaceuticals, I'm sitting here going, that's frightening. That is absolutely frightening.
That's a very good question, M16, but we can get the raw materials. If we have the plants, we can get the raw materials from Africa. Those African countries that they say are so far into China's back pocket, they'll come over to whoever has the money.
Well,
and also you sponsor research to make these chips out of other things. There are ways to, I think that in a few years we can figure out maybe you don't need as much raw materials as you think you need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that's been kicked around, and people laugh at Trump whenever he talks about this, he's like, why don't we buy Greenland? Now, this, well, no, hang on. This reminds me very much of the late 1860s when I believe it was Secretary of State Sewell under Andrew Johnson kicked around the idea of buying Alaska. And everybody's like, oh, this is Sewell's folly. Oh boy, was that one of the smartest things we ever did. Because not only did we put a buffer between us and Asia, we also gave ourselves mineral rights to the biggest frickin' oil deposit on the planet, or one of them anyway. And, you know, if we can figure out a way to go up there and get all that oil out and transport it down here, oh baby, oh baby. So, yeah. So, I mean, I don't see why. I mean, because, I mean, honestly, rare earth minerals is one of those things we do have trouble with. I say we go get
Absolutely.
Greenland. We go get
Yeah.
Greenland. Let's
Or
find
we
out what's
negotiate
there.
you negotiate a hell of a deal with the people of Greenland and maybe annex them into the United States if that's what they want to do.
Or make them a territory or something. Exactly. I have no problem with that.
Well, there's
You know.
ways to get raw materials. And, the same thing with Jackson and the Louisiana Purchase. Or, Jefferson and the Louisiana.
Jefferson, yeah.
Jefferson and the
Jefferson.
Louisiana Purchase. We got tons of raw materials from that, too. And they called it, he was just trying to get France out of our country, number one, and also increase the size of the country. But he got a whole heck of a lot of raw material there too.
Oh man, and well, how many acres do you want to sell us, Mr. President? How about everything from here all the way over to your Pacific coast? Oh, really? Well, how much do you want for it? How about 3 million francs? Yeah, I think we could swing that. Yep.
France didn't know what they were sitting on.
Oh, they had no idea. They had no idea what they gave up.
Louis XV, who was the king at the time of the purchase, or at the time of the Revolutionary War, it was Louis XVI, I believe, or 17th at the time of the purchase. They were just, he kind of reminds me of the elitists we have today that are in their ivy towers. He has no idea what's going on. He had no idea what he had there at all. At all.
Nope. And we got our hands on it, and buddy, we've been using it ever since. So we'll see what happens with this Keystone Pipeline. I hope Trump's able to put it together. I really do. I really do.
And maybe with a little prayer, I'll get a tap from Elon Musk. So I saw your stream and I saw your idea about Taiwan. Come and talk to me about that.
Elon, she's right over there. Make it happen, baby. I mean, I know you got rockets on the brain and Doge and everything else, but help a sister out over there, man. Just saying.
And also that proves that we here on the right are not against legal immigration of people that will actually be a benefit to our country, just like any other nation on earth. You want people that are going to benefit your country.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the key word. Benefit to the country. We have the right as a sovereign nation to decide who should be allowed in, and we also have the right to decide, okay, the basis upon which we are going to let them in. And one of them should be, what are they bringing to the table? There's nothing wrong with that.
50,000 skilled microchip manufacturers. Come on.
Yeah.
That can also teach those skills to other people. Because even if we build all these factories, we still need people that can do the work.
Yep. And there's a lot of kids graduating from college that would love to have a hands-on skill. And this would be a great way to, get that degree paid off.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, Nick, I know you said that was your last topic. I was going to go into the Daniel Penny, Jordan Neely case, but that case is still ongoing. The defense has the floor now, and a lot of interesting information coming out. So I want to kind of save that for the end of the trial to kind of do a summary of the trial. But I do want to talk about Morning Joe Scarborough and 𝗵𝗂𝗪.
Brzezinski, yeah.
You can tell I don't watch MSNBC at all. But Joe Scarborough, who, for those of you that have never been introduced to him,
keep talking.
Was a Republican, a neocon congressman from Florida, who, when Trump first ran in 2016, he was all, hey ho, Trump's the man. And he supported him. It was even rumored that Trump might tap him for the VP position, which ended up going ultimately to Pence. And as soon as that happened, Mika and Joe totally pivoted on Trump and became, he's a Nazi, he's a fascist, blah, 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 blah. And quite interestingly enough. In fact, up until about a week ago, they were still calling him Nazi and fascist and everything wrong with the world. In fact, I'll show you a clip that I have from one of the times Trump attempted to go on Morning Joe, so that you can kind of see their reaction to him. One moment here.
Hi, everyone. Mark Barden here at Sandy Hook Promise. On December 14th, 2012,
you should be afraid of the other side, not my side. Well, I want to get our hands around a very difficult situation.
All right, Donald.
Hey, Joe,
Donald, you got to let us ask questions. You can't just talk. No, you got to let us actually ask questions. You're just talking.
Muslims. No, I'm not just talking.
Donald, you're not going talking. If you talking, we're going to ask. All right, go to break, everybody. Go to break right now. We'll be right back with more Morning Joe.
So that was Joe Scarborough up until fairly recently and his treatment of Donald Trump. Now, I did tell them about how he was basically licking Donald Trump's butt back in 2016, hoping for that VP nod. And then when it didn't come, he did the complete 180.
Yep. And Joe Scarborough for 4 years. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
And for 4 years or longer, Joe Scarborough and Morning Mika, as she's affectionately referred to by certain people on the right, have been doing nothing but running Donald Trump's name through the mud. And, oh, wow, Donald Trump wins the 2024 election. And that sets up what Tracy's got for us next.
Within a week, in fact, I think it was Friday last, both Mika and Joe go to Mar-a-Lago and meet with Donald Trump. And then they came on to their Morning Joe fandom, which they have for the last 4 years have done nothing but call Donald Trump Hitler and Nazi and explain how they will report on the 2024 Trump presidency and how we need to meet in the middle. And so let's watch that clip and then we'll go into our whole reasoning for this. Even going down this path. I just think it's funny. Just everything going on is just funny. It's like we're in the Twilight Zone, Brian. I swear.
You're not wrong there, dear.
Hopefully this will pull up here. Give me a second. And then we'll talk about what happened after this. But this is what happened on Monday. This is what they said Monday morning on Morning Joe.
From political leaders to regular citizens deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time.
Doesn't she look? She just has that stereotypical Karen haircut. I just had to point that out.
We have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportations, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful. He was upbeat. He seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, Mika, why wouldn't you? So that is what they told their viewers on Monday as to why they are now pivoting back another 180 degrees to now begin cozying up to President Donald Trump. And it's pretty obvious. If it hadn't been for all the butt kissing from 2015, 2016, now I probably wouldn't say anything. I'd probably be complimenting them. Hey, they're trying to reach across, but I know these two well enough to know this is just a way to keep themselves relevant and to hopefully not draw the ire of the Trump administration.
Well, this is a way to keep themselves relevant, not draw the ire of the Trump administration, and perhaps more importantly for them, stay employed. Because it has been widely reported, Comcast, which is the parent company for MSNBC, wants to put MSNBC up on the block and sell it. And
Why?
Joe and Mika, why? No one's watching it. No one wants to watch it. It's a completely left-wing organization. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I remember when MSNBC started in the mid-90s, it was actually pretty good. It really was. They had a pretty broad spectrum of different people. Monica Crowley used to be on MSNBC years ago. Tucker Carlson got his start on MSNBC.
Yeah.
Cenk Uygur. I mean, we could sit here and just list off a whole bunch of names of people, the left, the right, the middle, everywhere in between. But as the years went by, it just got more and more left. And then about 2016, they just fell off the deep end. And they lost all sense of objectivity. So now, I mean, and here's the question. Even if, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that shows that Morning Joe lost 38% of their morning viewership, which was already tanking on Monday and has not kept up. Every show, morning to night, has dropped by thousands. Their core demographic, which has been a 25 to 54-year-old, which is a broad category. I mean, I have to say they've done their legwork. They've captured that leftist audience of all age groups, has fallen by half.
Yep.
They're not even getting the views that Tim Pool, the Daily Wire, Steven Crowder are getting on YouTube alone on a major cable network.
Absolutely. And, and even if Morning Joe and Mika try to tack back to the center, okay, I don't think it saves them. If new ownership gets a hold of MSNBC, if I had to guess, and I could be dead wrong about this, but if I had to guess, they're going to gut the place. Yep. They really will.
It's not going to be the major network. I think it'll become a podcasting network, much like Daily Wire, or much like louder, much like the Mug. I think he calls it the Mug Club over on Crowder, where you have all these different personalities, or even the Dave Ramsey Network, where you have all of these different talents that each have a different podcast. And that's what keeps the network going throughout the day and throughout the night. It's not going to be the same kind of cable news that they're used to. It's going to be individual hosts with individual shows that offer both news and opinion that are going to be running 24/7.
Yep, absolutely. And, frankly, I mean, the other thing that'll be fascinating to watch, if your prediction comes true, and I think it could, I will be fascinated to see how well Morning Mika, Scarborough, the Reverend Al Sharpton, Joy Reid, Amari, Ari Malber, all the rest. Excuse me. I want to see how well they compete against a Crowder, against a against a Tucker Carlson or a Megyn Kelly or everything else. They won't be able to do it. I guarantee. Well, let me take that back. They might be able to compete, but God, they're going to suffer for a while until they learn how to do it. But I don't think they can. I don't. I think they. This is just me. I could be dead wrong. They have had an insulated bubble inside MSNBC for years to be able to launch every lie, every invective, everything else that they've wanted to do for years. And now, when they realize, oh crap, Trump's coming back in, they're like, oh, we got to do something here. And Comcast wants to sell us. Guys, if Comcast sells you, give it about 18 months to 2 years, the structure of your network will never be the same again. Never.
You notice, and I know that Lindsay was talking about how Fox News was supposed to be fair and balanced, and we know it's swung more to the right-ish. They can still be very rhino. But they have pretty much pivoted from being a 24-hour news network to a podcasting network.
Yeah.
All of their people have podcasts, and they operate over on YouTube, on Rumble, as well as they broadcast it on their cable network. It's just different podcast shows. It's just different shows with different hosts in a podcast format. You know, everything from O'Reilly to, I don't even think O'Reilly's on the network anymore, but all of them have, like Jesse Waters, they all have their own podcast, and that's essentially what it is. It's a podcast. Tucker was essentially doing his podcast on Fox News before they kicked him off. And so he just went over and started doing it for himself. So they became a podcast network. It's not a major news network. They still have reporters and correspondents, of course, but it's just a podcasting network. And I don't think the personalities they have on there can make it, because no one's going to tune in and watch them.
Yeah, I remember years and years and years ago, the Reverend Al Sharpton reached out to the late Rush Limbaugh. And Limbaugh tells a story. Excuse me one second. Sharpton reached out to Rush Limbaugh and said, I want to learn how to do what you do. Rush was like, okay, what do you mean? Well, I want to start I want to find the leftist Rush Limbaugh. I think I could do it. Rush is like, well, okay, I'll sit down and talk to you. And he did, if I remember the story correctly. And Rush came away from the meeting, and he went back on the radio one day. He was talking about, he's like, look, with all due respect to the Reverend Al Sharpton, he does not understand. This is not just a matter of put somebody behind a microphone and they're going to get 30 million viewers. It is a lot of hard work. It is a lot of, crafting, what you do to attract the largest audience possible. And I mean, Air America, they tried this. Rachel Maddow, the late Ed Schultz, Sharpton, a handful of others, never really went anywhere. Not to the same extent that Rush or G. Gordon Liddy or others of that era were able to produce.
They all started out in old AM radio. All of them started out in old AM radio. And that moved with the times and became a digital network. But we're talking about people who have never even been in a radio space.
Yeah, and that's why
to make this change. They've been on television, traditional TV for years. Mm-hmm. They don't have a clue. At least people that came from radio kind of understood it was kind of the same thing. Just a digital format instead of a, airwaves format. But they are going to crash and burn.
Yeah. And by the way, Duke Willis, I saw your comment. MSNBC did bring back J. Fred Muggs. The only difference is his name is now Joe Scarborough, and you can see him Monday through Friday starting at 7 a.m. Just saying. Sits right beside Amika every day. That's J. Fred Muggs, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, if you're old enough to know who J. Fred Muggs is, we're good.
The only morning show I remember growing up, now this is an Alabama thing, I'm sure, but a Country Boy Eddie. Country Boy Eddie came on every morning at 5 a.m. and we watched him till 7 a.m.
Wow.
Broadcast atop Vulcan Studios in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh,
sponsored by
goodness.
Sunshine Pet Foods. I still remember.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. In my hometown on a local WSAZ at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the soap operas would end. There was a local broadcaster. He's passed away now. His name was Jewel Huffman. And he hosted it started out as like a 2-hour show, then an hour and a half. And over the years, it bounced around. But it was a kid show. And his character was Mr. Cartoon. And he would play, Hanna-Barbera cartoons, etc. And he would bring the kids in and he would teach them certain life lessons. He said, what are the 7 magic words? Please, thank you, excuse me, you're welcome, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. He would teach them this every day at the end of the show, or at least at the end of the week. Jewel Huffman was an institution in that slot from the 60s up and, off and on up to the early 2000s, and just
Country Boy Eddie had it from 1969. I think he went off the air in the year 2000.
Yeah.
I mean and just because he retired, and if you tuned into it today, it would look like not quite a public access, but it's something that was a local station would do homegrown in the thing, but it was a little more primitive than that. But he would have local talent come on, play live music. He would do the news. They'd do the weather. There were no cartoons that I recall. It was just straight news and entertainment. But he did it. He started out in radio. So the whole thing is these people have no idea what they're going to. These people would be the people on MSNBC and the ones on CNN that are about to get the axe because they're about to cut 50% of their own air talent. And Chris Wallace was the first to jump ship. Yeah. I really think they would be much better served starting their own YouTube channel, their own podcast, and try to make a go of it on their own because they're not going to last. Whoever buys MSNBC is not going to keep any of them.
No. I mean, when you have and here's the thing. The credibility of any news network is dependent upon any number of things. It's viewership, maybe put away. A lot of it is, do you present us with news that's accurate? Well, you spent years and years and years. Donald Trump, Russiagate, the walls are closing in. It's just a matter of time, and it never happens. How many years can you do this to people, even if they are more inclined to believe you because of their own ideology? How many years can you be a disingenuous, inaccurate network before your viewers start going, I may be a lefty, but you guys don't know what the hell's going on. I'm going to go find somebody that actually knows what the deal is.
These people realize that these people are out of their minds, that they lied to them, and they've jumped ship.
Yep. Yeah.
Every single one of it. Lefties here on YouTube, like Dave Pacman, some of those guys, Sam Cedar, some of those guys, they've lost tens of thousands of subscribers and channel members because they lied to their people. They lied to them. And those people are going to go and find other people that will tell them the truth, whether they like it or not. But they kept them all in an echo chamber. And then when Trump won, clutch my pearls and fall over. It's just kind of what happens. And also now Trump, I don't know if you saw, but Trump is actually launching a lawsuit against CNN, CBS, ABC, and NBC. Not MSNBC. I'm not sure how much MSNBC is connected to the actual NBC anymore. But I think he's probably like, they don't have any money anyway. They're about to be out of business and sold off. So he's not going to bother with them. But he's going after the major networks for all the libel and slander and stuff that they've done privately. And I don't blame him. I think $10 billion was the number that I heard.
Let him do it. Let him do it. I have not a problem with it. One, these people need to be taught a lesson. I have no problem with a press that holds government officials accountable if they're telling the truth and they're laying out facts that people are not being given. That's the role of the press. That's the job of the Fourth Estate. I've got a serious problem when you got the Fourth Estate acting like a propaganda organ for the Democrat Party, which is what they've become. It's absolutely what they have become.
And you and I, yes, we're slanted to the right, but we do tell the truth. We absolutely tell the truth. Like when we talk about Trump's cabinet picks, I'm not thrilled about all of them. but hopefully he's done his due diligence and they'll do a good job.
Yep. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, when I'm at the bar and she's 4 drinks in and she asks me, do you think I'm hot? Absolutely. I'm going to tell her the truth and say, you are the hottest woman I've ever seen in my life. Just kidding. Just kidding. Oh, will you stop it? I'm just trying to make a joke to just kind of put a zinger in there.
And speaking of Alex Jones, he's filed not only an injunction, but I think he's also going to sue whoever was responsible for them trying to rip InfoWars right out from under him. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Now, do I always agree on Alex Jones? No, I think Alex Jones does a lot of doom scrolling and a lot of incendiary kinds of headlines that I don't agree with, and about 98% of them don't ever go anywhere. He's been right about 10% of the time. Everybody gives him a lot of credit. He's been right about 10% of the time.
Yep.
But a broken clock is right twice a day. So do I agree with Alex Jones? No. Do I like to watch him? Yes, because to me, he's entertainment. I don't put a whole lot of stock in what he says, but he has a right to say it.
Yeah, Alex is a consummate entertainer. He really is. He is very good at what he does. Another guy who's been, plying his trade since the 1990s. And man, it's kind of funny. You go back and look at some old video of him back in the 90s and to now it's like, wow, really interesting.
Oh yeah. I did a deep dive on Alex Jones. I'm going to drop the link to it here here in the chat. Go check it out. He actually pulled a War of the Worlds type prank on the city of, I believe it was Austin, in the year 2000, when it became 1999 became the year 2000.
Yeah.
He actually pulled like a War of the Worlds style prank. It caused a lot of panic, and I lost a lot of respect for him for doing that. But you have to, but it was, a show, same as Orson Welles did, but I think it was a little more malicious than what Orson Welles did. But it was very interesting to cover, I'll tell you that.
They're turning the frogs gay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Here, if I can find it, I'm going to drop it for you. I got so many dang playlists. If y'all are interested in true crime, dark history, just nerdy stuff, check out everything else on my channel. I've got, if you like conspiracy, I'm just going to drop a whole playlist here of stuff. Actually, hang on. Yeah, I'm going to drop a playlist here that is my conspiracy theory playlist. I got everything from a 2-parter on QAnon to the Alex Jones, which is almost a 2-hour deep dive that I did. I even read the Turner Diaries, which is one of the most racist books ever written. It was about it's what the KKK used as their handbook. No kidding. So if you're into that kind of dark stuff that's still pretty interesting, check out this playlist that I just dropped.
Oh, wow. That's cool. No, I mean, you really do. And I'm not just saying this because I'm here. You've got a really great channel. You really do. Just all kinds of neat and interesting, really neat and interesting stuff. Oh, Duke, we're about up on the anniversary of that. The Les Nessman turkey drop. Oh, God.
I swear to God, I thought turkeys could fly.
Oh, the humanity. Oh, God.
WKRP, one of the best shows ever.
That sketch may be one of the greatest 5 minutes in the history of television. Truly.
Can you? Now, my hometown in Alabama, and I have a joke when I toured stand-up comedy. I have a bit I do about my little hometown in Alabama had a turkey trot, and part of that was throwing live turkeys and chickens off of our 20-foot clock tower. Now, it was only 20 feet, so nobody died, but literally they would throw these things and you would catch them. If you caught it, you kept it, kind of thing. And it was a yearly tradition until PETA got involved, and now they throw they started out throwing actual like wrapped, I don't want to say frozen, but frozen turkeys and frozen chickens. They started dropping them. That got a little bit dangerous. This is redneck logic. So now they drop coupons for a free turkey or a free whole chicken in baggies down from the clock tower.
Funny. That's funny. That's funny. Oh my gosh. I swear I thought turkeys could fly. Poor Mr. Carlson walks in his office. Jeez.
Can you imagine driving like in rush hour in 1970s Cincinnati, and all of a sudden a turkey just hits your car?
Yeah, I can. But what got me about that sketch, the gentleman who played Les Nessman reports that with such sincerity. It's almost like he's reporting War of the Worlds, except it's turkeys on Thanksgiving. It's just like,
Oh, I didn't realize you were in Cincinnati. I love Cincinnati. Fun
oh,
city.
great town. Great town.
I like Cleveland too, but I like Cincinnati a little bit better. But there was since we're on 80s nostalgia, there's an episode of Different Strokes called The Bicycle Man, where Arnold and his friend get assaulted by a bicycle owner, played by I can't think of his name, but the actor that played this station manager on WKRP. And when I saw that as a kid, I was just devastated because I never could look at him the same way again.
Yep. Hang on a minute. I'll get you the name. It is Gordon Jump.
Yep.
Who played Mr. Carlson. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that
of course Johnny Fever was of course a staple. God.
Yeah, Howard Hessman played Johnny Fever. You had Tim Reed who played Venus Flytrap. Richard Saunders played Les Nessman. Frank Bonner played the sleazy salesman. Herb
Lonnie
Carlton.
Anderson. Herb. Yeah, I like Herb. And Lonnie Anderson. Oh.
Lord, that woman. Lord, that woman.
She got her some Burt Reynolds, though.
Yeah, and the irony of it is, the story goes that on the day of the wedding, he wanted to back out right there. He realized he was making a mistake. And he just, yeah. So, oh well. Well.
I have a playlist of 80s sitcoms theme songs that I listen to, the full versions, and the WKRP in Cincinnati one is like one of the first ones on there.
Yeah, and it's nothing for me to drive around Cincinnati, and there is an actual station there. Oh, what is it? What are the call sign on it? It's very similar to WKRP, but not exactly the same. And I'm trying to think of what it is, and it's escaping me right now. But first time I heard it, I went, "Yep, I'm in Cincinnati." There you go.
Well, everyone, I think that's about it for the news. We've been here going on 2 hours, so we'll go out with a brief commercial. Brian, tell everyone where they can find you.
Again, thank you for having me here, Tracy. I genuinely appreciate it. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Rumble at the Front Porch Conservative. You can also find me on Twitter at the Front Porch C1. I discuss politics, pop culture. Now that the elections are over, don't get me wrong, I'll still be talking politics, but I'm going to try and broaden it out to some other stuff and things that I'm interested in, and get a really good. I mean, that's part of what the interview was the other night with 𝗟𝗏. I'd seen her stuff, and I'm like, I gotta talk to this lady because that was to me it was a fascinating conversation. So if you like that sort of thing, give us something to my channels and follow me on Twitter. I'll always keep you posted when I'm getting ready to do new live streams or new videos. And Tracy, as always, thank you very much.
It was great having you here. Everybody go over and check out Brian and his work and WKRC. So that makes a lot of sense. Right.
Yeah.
Now I have to ask M16, is that because the production company that did WKRP has a copyright and the station couldn't be named WKRP, or did the show base WKRP on WKRC? Do you know? Because my geeky brain wants to know.
Now that one I have no answer to that one. None whatsoever. Oh, one last thing.
Yeah.
Thank you all for suffering with me being as croaky as I am. I am not going to be doing a live stream tomorrow night. I will be back this weekend with Front Porch Brunch because I got to get over this. This is killing me.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm glad. I hope you need to feel better. Get some honey and Jack Daniels. Get yourself a hot toddy.
Oh, that sounds like a wonderful idea. Absolutely.
So
wonderful.
WKRC came first. That's good.
Okay. Okay.
They just changed the letter.
Okay. But yeah, I'll be back this Saturday morning with Front Porch Brunch, God willing. And thank you again for having me on here. This is a load of fun as always.
Oh, it was so much fun. Everyone, thank you for joining me. And I hope to see you again soon. And until next time, we're out.